Hello explorers and welcome to another video. Today we are going to talk about Bacula and Ceph. And I run my own little lab at home where I have a couple of servers, a couple of clients that I run, and I try to make it usable both as something where I work on my videos and other personal stuff, and also as an office. And of course, when you have a lot of data and when you're working with a lot of different projects, one very important thing is, of course, backups. You should always have a backup strategy that is 3-to-1, which should be 3 different copies on 2 separate kind of media, and 1 should be off-site. I'm having 1 off-site. I'm having at least 3 copies of my data, often more than that. And I have different mediums in that case that I store it in different places. But of course I could do even better with my backup strategy if it was super important. For instance, if we had a nuclear fallout here in the Nordic, I will probably lose my data, but then again, I would have other problems, right? So you need to put it on a level that is good for you. What would be the worst case scenario for you losing your data? So if we transition over to my screen here, we see my Bacula setup here, and I have backed up a bunch of data, and what I backed up here is not that important. It's just I backed up a bunch of it. And I have a lot of it backed up here, about 500 gigabytes. And if we switch over to Ceph, I have those 500 gigabytes in an S3 pool, in an object storage place. So I have put them into object storage in Ceph. And this was something that I talked about in my Bacula video that I really wanted to get working, because saving things in an S3 storage open up so many possibilities. You could send them to offsite, Amazon Cloud or whatever, and have multiple of these kind of backup solutions set up. And with Bacula, you can have an one-to-many or many-to-many solution. So you can say, I want to back this data up, I want to store it locally, and I also wanted to send it offsite, and you can have all these kind of flows set up as you want. So what I did here was setting up S3, and it's another device. So in Bacula you have these kind of clients which sends data over to a storage daemon. The storage daemon could have a file changer which switch between different devices when it stores data, and then you have devices that are the actual storing devices. Often a device could either be a tape backup or store as a file on disk. And if we switch over here to this, we see this device here. This is a device of type cloud, and it's non-removable media. It's automatically mounted. It has labeling, and I only run 1 job concurrently on this. I don't back up that many systems and that much data, so it's something that I could switch up if I want to, but currently I run 1. And then you have random access in the files, of course. This is important when it comes to sizes of the files. So here you could put in a part size that corresponds to the object size in Ceph in order to get it even more performant. So this is a way of splitting things into files. Volumes, which is what you're storing, is something separate. So you have a volume with a bunch of files. Those files will be stored as objects in your object storage, but the volumes contains a bunch of parts. So parts is the actual objects that you need to keep track on. So if you want parts that are smaller in order to have smaller objects, or if you want to have fewer objects but larger parts, this is where you set that. And then you just give it a name. In this case I set Ceph. So whenever I choose a device in my backup strategy, I choose the Ceph device. And then drive index is something I set, and description as well. Not that important. It is more when you do the file changer. It's important that the index is different for each of these devices. And then we are using the cloud, Ceph Cloud, and it's defined further up here. We have an archive device. This is where on my local device I want to store the files or the parts or the volumes before I send them on to S3. And you could choose to keep them there. So this is where you cache those kind of files, and you can keep them on disk if you want to. That will be something that you could restore faster from. So you can have this as an archive and then send it off to an S3 as well. And then you would have two different locations, right? And then you have a media type file. This is how you set up how you want the voluming to be handled. So I'm having a profile called file, which is telling me how many volumes I should have, how large they should be, and so on. Not read-only, of course, and I don't want to use an auto changer. So this is the device setup. All of these are not required. Some of them are default values, so you don't need to set them. But this is what I set in my configuration. And then up here we have my cloud. So we name it Ceph Cloud. It's the same as we have down here. The driver, of course, is S3. Then you have a host name. In my case, I have a host name and a port because I'm using Ceph, so it has a port for your S3 buckets. And then you have the bucket, of course. In this case, it's Bacula, where I store the data. I have some access key and secret here, something that you get from Ceph. In my case, I run everything locally, and I haven't fixed any SSL certificate, so I'm running this over HTTP, but you can run it over HTTPS, of course. If you're running against the solution at Amazon, you will have a URI style that is domain, but in my case, I'm using path, of course, because that is the setup in Ceph. So instead of having region.domain and then a path, you say, and region, bucket, and so on in the domain name, you put it in the path instead. So that's the difference there. And then you have truncate cache. In my case, I don't have that much storage space on the actual device that's doing the backup. So I want to send it off to the cloud as fast as possible. So I want to truncate the cache in this Bacula archive after upload. So it should store things, send it off to S3, and then it should truncate that cache and remove the files from disk. And then each part should be uploaded directly. So upload should be either done on each volume, on each part, and so on. So you can choose in what granularity you want to upload it to S3. So it will create a part on disk, write a bunch of data until the part has filled up with a lot of data, and then it will store that as an object in S3. So this was what I wanted to cover today. I hope that you found this interesting. I hope that you learned something today. If you liked this video, give it a like, share it with your friends and colleagues. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. If you have any comments or suggestions, leave those in the comment section down below. And I really hope to see you in the next video.